then you're gonna have a blast in Spain. And Germany, you're gonna die of boredom here. It's important to know what you're signing up for. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paulina. It's been a few weeks since we got back from holidays in Spain, where we actually used to live for 6 years before moving to Germany. And this time around, I have so many reflections on life in Spain versus life in Germany. Ever since we moved to Germany 4 years ago, I've been going back and forth inside my mind, being like, should we move back to Spain? Should we stay in Germany long term? Where is it actually better to live? Where is it better for me, for our family? And yeah, I just want to share with you guys my thoughts and my reflections in this video. So we're talking all about living in Spain versus living in Germany as a foreigner. And if you want to see more content like this, and if you're curious about daily, regular life in Germany, in a small German town, subscribe to my channel and like this video to help my channel grow. All right, let's go. Of course, to answer the question, where is it better to live, depends a lot on the circumstances and your personality. In this video, I want to explain to you my point of view based on where I used to live, where I'm from, and just my reflections on this topic. To start with, if you're new to this channel, I'm originally from Russia, where I was growing up until I was 18 years old. I went to get my degree in Finland, where I met my Spanish husband. Then we moved to Spain, to Catalonia, when I was 21, and we lived there for 6 years before we moved to Germany in 2021. So that is the background that built me. The most important part being that I grew up in the northern part of Russia with parents from Soviet Union, so my cultural background is crazy different, and the way I perceive Spain and the way I perceive Germany is really strongly impacted by all this. Keep in mind that what I'm comparing here as well is living in a city in Spain, because we used to live in a city of about 150,000 people, close to Barcelona, very active, a very highly populated area, versus a tiny 16,000 people town in Bavaria, which is surrounded by fields, farms, villages, and being far from the city. So the comparison is not always fair, and again, it's just my thoughts and reflections on these topics, so please don't judge it. One of the things that I personally struggle with when I was living in Spain and now when visiting is just the lack of planning, schedules, and how late everything is. When I'm in Spain, I feel like I'm always waiting for someone or something to happen. Like I would be already ready, like, okay, we want to do this thing, I'm ready, let's go. But people in Spain will be waiting and just chilling and most likely going out like later in the evening. While in Russia, where I come from, the goal is to do things like earlier than later because it gets dark quite early most of the year. And in Spain, it's exactly the opposite. They will literally be doing nothing all day, only to start getting ready when I'm, in the mood to be in my pajamas. Speaking about Germany though, there is another extreme, which is a little bit frustrating sometimes, but it's still my preferred way. It's that everything closes really early. Like Germans just do everything really, really early. They have lunch at 12, they have dinner 5 or 6. I honestly don't know how they do this schedule, but the more frustrating thing is that everything just closes really early as well in the town. At least that's what happens in our town. I don't know. Of course, it's not relevant for bigger cities, but in our Bayerish town, everything closes after 5 to 6 p.m. tops. And if you're working full time and you're finishing around 5, sometimes you want to do something and everything is closed. Shops, cafes, like there's literally nothing to do. So yeah, I'm just giving you this information for you to consider both extremes, whether it's doing everything super late and not having any structure in a day like they do in Spain, or the opposite, doing everything very, very early and usually having to plan a lot, as it is in Germany. Another thing that I want to mention when it comes to living in Spain is just how extroverted and socially active the culture is. And if you're like this, if you are very extroverted and you really thrive being with a lot of people all the time, then you're gonna have a blast in Spain. If you're a little bit more introverted, it's important to know what you're signing up for. Spanish culture is very loud, very expressive, and you're always with people. And to be honest, I totally get it. Like, we humans are social creatures. I personally also really love connections, and I feel so much happier like being with people, and I get a lot of joy from socializing, from hanging out with friends and so on. But the extreme to which Spain goes, it can be a little bit too much, especially if you're coming from a more closed off culture like I do. So coming from Russia, even growing up when I was a kid, all my life I always had like really small group of friends, and even more like I would have 1-2 best friends, and that's it. Like I would just be, you know, spending a lot of time with the same people. Like I always had 1-2 besties, and I would be happy to spend time with them, and I wouldn't need more than this. Now I can still feel really comfortable in groups of 5-6 people, 7, where you can still like talk and have deeper conversations, but anything above 7, I would say, you lost me. I do not thrive in big groups of people. I cannot catch up with conversation. I'm generally more of a listener as soon as I'm like in a group of people, because I just don't have this skill of like interrupting or quickly inserting my opinion. So in Spain, it's very normal to be like in really huge groups of people. And sure, it can be also like kind of specific to my husband's situation, because his family is huge, his group's friends is huge. I'm talking 25 people plus, and I just don't thrive in such huge groups of people, especially when you add a language barrier to this, because even though I speak Spanish, they speak Catalan, and even if I do learn Catalan and like I speak Spanish quite well as well, I still am not a native speaker, and I just cannot catch up with native speakers, like with multiple native speakers, right? Like if I'm talking with 1, 2, 3 people, I'm perfectly comfortable. But if I'm sitting with like 10 plus people on a dinner table, I'm absolutely lost. I cannot catch up with conversation. And yeah, in Spain, like people are always doing something together, always hanging out, and I personally felt a little bit of pressure even when I was living there, because sometimes I would just want to not go out and be with people, and I would just want to stay in or do something, but only with my partner. And yeah, I would always come out as antisocial in Spain, which I'm not. I love like hanging out with people. But yeah, it was just too much for me. And if you're also not like super extroverted, it might be a little bit challenging, and maybe choosing a country like Germany would be a better like balance. I personally realized after all these years that despite the fact that I complain about a lot of things in Germany, and sometimes, you know, being an expat, it's really hard to make friends because of how closed the culture is. But still, I realized that despite this fact, this culture fits me better in terms of my, social activeness, let's say. I see people in Germany spending time in small groups, hanging out with just 1-2 friends. I see a lot of families just spending time like with their family, which in Spain I feel like you're always doing stuff with other people. At least that's the experience that I had. Now let's talk about financial security. And of course, in this aspect, Germany is a lot better than Spain. And I'm not only talking about higher salaries, which obviously Germany has a much higher salaries, very high taxes, but still the net amount that you get is going to be much higher in Germany, and average salaries are much higher in Germany. But also I'm quite impressed by the different governmental help that exists here in Germany. And I was not really aware of it until I had a kid. But just to give you one example, when you have a child in Germany, when the kid is born here, you start getting Kindergeld in the amount of 250 euros per month, and you get them, wait for it, until the child is 18 years old monthly. And I'm talking about net amount. You don't deduct any tax on that. If you calculate how much money is that, like per year, multiply it by 18, that's a lot of money. And I know it's a really good amount because I talked with people in Spain. I also talked with a friend in Finland. And even in Finland, in the country that is really kind of famous for, you know, having really good, like also governmental help and all of that, they don't pay as much as they do here in Germany as a child benefit. On top of that, living in Bavaria, we also get in 250 more per month during the second and third year of kids' life, which sums up to 500 euros per month net that we're getting from the government on top of our salaries, which pretty much covers the whole kindergarten, and you know, there is even still money left. And yeah, you know, this is one example, but there are many different governmental helps that you get. Keep in mind as well that I do not have German citizenship, so it's not only for German citizenships, this money. And all this in combination makes me feel really financially secure in Germany, which I never felt before, because when I was living in Spain, first I had the most, like, smallest salary ever with my first job at Deloitte. It was so low, I could barely meet the ends at the end of the month. And after that, I quit that job and I became a freelancer. And because I was a freelancer, I also never really felt secure. I had to do my own taxes. It was not really stable. So I never really felt, you know, financially secure until I came to Germany and I got a job here. And my job is not even like above average or anything like that. It's a really pretty average job. So for me, and being at this point in my life, having a kid and just you know, focusing on motherhood pretty much, this is a really important part. If you're looking to, you know, grow financially and focus on your career and so on, Spain might not be the best country. Although, to be honest, with the current recession and just the economical situation, I don't know where in the world it's good to build a career at the moment. But yeah. We cannot not mention costs of living in this video. So in general, of course, in Spain, costs of living are much lower than in Germany. And you would say, okay, that makes sense. Salaries are also lower. So food, transport, services are much cheaper in Spain than they are in Germany. But if you're looking to move to Barcelona area, the price of accommodation, I was literally shocked to find out that it's even outside of Barcelona, in the city where I used to live, 40 minutes from Barcelona, the price of accommodation is higher there in Spain than it is in Germany. Yes, we live in a small town in Germany, but still, the salaries are just not proportionate in Spain. Again, if you are thinking about this specific location in Catalonia, which is honestly very popular for expats to move there specifically to Barcelona. So in there, you basically have to have somewhat equivalent of a German salary if you want to live comfortably. Otherwise, Spanish salaries are just not proportionate to the super high costs of accommodation that you're gonna be spending every single month. Of course, if you are considering other regions in Spain, maybe south of Spain, that's gonna be a completely different picture. In there, it's really, really much cheaper, both accommodation and other things like services. So it's more proportionate to the average Spanish salary. But otherwise, yeah, as I already mentioned, in the financial aspect, Germany just provides a much better balance and much more, like, you can just afford much more in Germany with the salaries, with even the average salaries that you have here, and the costs of living, at least outside of big cities like Munich, Berlin, and so on. The last thing that I want to mention is what I call brightness of life. And Spain can definitely provide much more, you know, things to do, activities, exciting activities, concerts, festivals, hobbies, like hanging out with people, just events, like a lot more richness in that sense. So if you're someone that thrives in that, if you're someone that you want this to be kind of focus of your life and it makes you really happy, or maybe you're just going through the period when you want to have a lot of experiences, new things and so on, Spain is going to be so much better. And Germany, you're going to die of boredom here, especially if you move to a small town like where we live. And I personally myself go back and forth with this because It's true that sometimes I do get bored here and I get frustrated that, especially in winter time, there's just nothing going on for months, and yeah, people just like stay at home and don't do anything. But for the majority of it, I find that here I feel a little bit more balanced in that way, because I'm also a person of routines, I'm a person of structure. I really just like to do stuff on the weekend, but during my weekdays, I'm more into like eating healthy, going to sleep early, just doing my thing. Where in Spain, it's completely normal to go to the bar on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday. It doesn't really matter which day is it. They're always out and about. So yeah, if this is your vibe, Spain is definitely a much better option for you. If you want more peaceful, calm life, Germany is going to be better for you. And I'm in my 30s now, and we have a small kid, so we're definitely all for like calm and peaceful and safe life right now, which is why we're staying in Germany, and which is why we chose to be here and to have a child here. But yeah, this is just something to keep in mind. It all depends on our unique circumstances, stage of life, and so yeah. I know that even just half a year ago, I was really leaning towards leaving Germany sooner than later, but after visiting Spain again this summer and really self-reflecting on how I feel there, what's the current situation there, whether economy related, crime related, I just feel like, at least for the time being, Germany just fits me better, taking into account my circumstances like raising a child and so on. Yeah, so I hope this video was interesting. Let me know in the comments what you think of living in Germany versus living in Spain. Let's discuss this in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next one. I'm just finished with my yoga, and oh my god, I feel so good. The main reason why I went out today to do yoga outside is because I checked the forecast and it's gonna rain pretty much every single day for the next week. I think today is the last day of summer in Germany. So yeah, I'm just trying to get the most out of it, and it's in moments like this I realized how I actually really love living here. Like, I'm in the middle of the park, I walked here just 5 minutes from my home. I feel safe, there is almost no one, I feel comfortable, and yeah,